The technology industry has spent years struggling with its diversity efforts. Although many firms have made very public shows of trying to boost the hiring and retention of underrepresented groups, diversity reports often show that real progress is still slow. Naoufel is the co-founder of QueerTech, who is looking to increase representation of LGBTQ+ people in the technology sector. So, Naoufel, why did you found QueerTech?
I have been in tech, in the tech ecosystem in Montreal for about 12 years now. And one thing that came up over and over is really not having a sense of belonging. In 2016, I decided that, hey, why don't I launch a meetup group and see who are other community members out there? So I created a group, and that's kind of was the birth of QueerTech.
What kinds of barriers does the LGBTQ+ community face in the technology industry?
You know, from their time at university, a lot of queer students actually leave STEM because when they come in, they don't feel that sense of belonging. Again, from there, it's usually a very male, sometimes macho dominated industries. And so people come in and don't feel that they belong there. Another barrier is that a lot of queer people would come into a tech company and then they would find themselves either the only queer person there, or person of color there. And so they start to bear this responsibility of training and raising awareness about community, advocating, and a lot of community members get burned out. They don't necessarily want to play that role. It is the role of the employer, the tech company, to be educating their employees and not the individual to bear responsibility.
Well, when it comes to mentorship and the LGBTQ+ community, are there any specific considerations we need to be mindful of?
Absolutely. I think companies today are investing a lot to drive diversity to their. I know a lot of the partner we work with, a lot of the tech companies believe in diversity and inclusion. They invest, they bring in the talent. And I think doing a really good job integrating these communities and supporting them is key. Having programs that support these communities is very important. Have a mentorship program. Find executives and leaders in the company who are willing to give some times to support and coach and mentor these community members will go a long way because they can learn about the barriers they are facing, they can learn about the challenges they are facing, and so they can also adjust and support them throughout this.
Now, you've conducted a Queer and Tech research study. What were some of the key takeaways that you found from this study?
So some of the takeaways we found is that one, queer communities and especially people of color, indigenous people and people with disabilities have even bigger barriers entering the industries. There is two levels. One, there is a lack of representation because there is a lack of data that we have around these communities. And so the fact that we don't have data, that means that we are not building solutions, policies, and programs to support these communities. The second one is that when people companies again do a great job at trying to go and find that diversity and they bring people in and then they just don't have the infrastructure internally to support these communities. If you cannot hire diversity, make sure that you have a clear discrimination policy, sexual harassment policy, educate people around LGBTQ challenges and have trainings around what the acronym means and how different is sexual orientation and gender diverse people. Educate people around indigenous challenges that we face in this country. So creating all that education, remove the barrier and remove the burden on that person and the community members to thrive in the industry. We also learned that companies need to have a better performance reviews by having them more objective. And that's one of the things community members have reported is that they feel most of the time that they are not fairly evaluated in the company because they are very different. They don't maybe they don't go to team activities at the bars or at the soccer games or play the ping pong table. And so they get disconnected from the team. So these are some of the themes that like the research that we're doing is identifying.
How can we support LGBTQ+ founders in the tech industry, and what kind of tools would they need to ensure that they're resilient and successful?
I think it is now the turn of LGBTQ. I think these investors need to start thinking, how do we create funds and how do we support that? QueerTech, as a community group, we are trying to build that community and connect founders together and have a support system. The entrepreneurship journey is a lonely journey for anyone, and having community is really important. So we are trying to build that support. And I know there is more and more programs out there from accelerators, incubators, and VCs to support LGBTQ entrepreneurs in that journey.